Hey everyone, Brendan Snyder here. How are you? Thanks so much for joining me and welcome to a run through of my Queen CD collection. This one here has been requested a number of times and I'm glad to be able to finally put it together for you guys. The band formed in 1970 and have released a total of 16 studio albums, but in my collection I've got 40 CDs to go through with you guys. Everything from the very early beginning and before they were known as Queen all the way up to present day. So lots of cool stuff we're going to run through here. We'll get into it in just a bit, but before we start, if you're new to my channel and haven't already hit the subscribe button, please do. Also leave a comment, hit like. All those things do help support my channel. I'd greatly appreciate it. And of course, as an added bonus, by turning on notifications, you'll never miss an episode and stay up to date on really cool things like this with a run through of my Queen CD collection. So as I mentioned, the band formed in 1970, but before that, they were known as Smile. And they had a different vocalist. It wasn't Freddie Mercury, it was Tim Stoffel. And I don't know if they actually released this or this is just something that came out later on, but there are 6 demos out there from the band itself. And one of them in particular, Doing All Right, would later turn up on the Bohemian Rhapsody soundtrack and getting an official release that way, which I always thought was pretty cool. But it's always nice to have some of that early stuff here. So this definitely a bootleg Japanese CD edition of that collection of early material. But there you go. First thing to kick off with to start the Queen collection. So Brian May, Roger Taylor, and Tim Stoffel was part of that. And before Queen was signed, they put out these demos, the D. Lane Leah demos. And this was part of Record Store Day, and it was part of the Queen 1 box set. I just like the idea of getting a standalone copy with its own album art and everything. 5 tracks in total. Keep Yourself Alive, The Night Comes Down, Great King Rat, Jesus, and Liar were the 5 songs that they had recorded that would land them a recording contract and ultimately lead to the debut studio album, simply called Queen, although now it has been retitled as Queen 1 when they did this 2024 remix last year, which is substantially different, improved, however you want to think about it. I really, really like this. It opened my ears up to the recording. I always kind of felt like this didn't click with me. Enjoyed the songs off of it, Keep Yourself Alive, and other major hits that have remained in the band's catalog. But for me, the remix of this is really sounding like Queen and enjoying it. And I'm glad to still have both versions of these. This one here being the 2 CD reissue with bonus tracks. I've worked to replace all of my original albums with the 2 CD remaster editions that came out in 2011. So this has 6 bonus tracks on a second disc, a bonus EP, of which it's got those live recordings, or not live, but demo recordings that I just mentioned, which was the main reason I didn't want to pick up the box, but I picked up the vinyl to get the standalone copy of it. Those are appearing on here as well. All right. So we move on to their second studio album, simply called Queen 2, 1974. Again, this is the remaster edition with bonus EP on it. We get some BBC sessions, live at the Hammersmith Odeon, an instrumental of 7 Seas of Rye, and we get a B-side on here, See What a Fool I've Been, from 1974. So these 2 CD editions that have those bonus tracks is kind of all that was left at the time, and it was really great that they did that, although we've started to get some box sets that have fleshed that stuff out even more, and when we hit those, I will pull them out for you guys. Next up, Also 1974, Queen, Sheer Heart Attack. Again, it's got the bonus EP in it. So on this one here, we're getting some more live stuff, BBC stuff. We get an a cappella version of Bring Back That Leroy Brown. And we also get In the Lap of the Gods Revisited live. And then A Night at the Opera, 1975, the all-time classic album. Again, with the EP on it. Let's see, we've got Keep Yourself Alive, the Long Last retake. Okay, Bohemian Rhapsody, Operatic Section A, a cappella mix. You're My Best Friend, a backing track mix. I'm in Love with My Car, the guitar and vocal mix. 39 live version, and Love of My Life, also a live version. And then the companion album, A Day at the Races, and again with the bonus EP on it. So they grouped, 5 or 6 of these albums together at a time and would reissue them. They were doing this, in part to celebrate the band's, I believe, 40th anniversary at that time. So this has Tie Your Mother Down, which was a backing track. We get some live tracks on here, and we get some different mix versions as well. And then personal favorite of mine, News of the World, hence the shirt that I'm wearing here. This one here, News of the World, was 77. And again, bonus EP on it. Surprisingly, it was difficult getting a hold of all of these. I want to say perhaps these bonus EPs were initially, I believe, like UK or European release only. They later on, I think, did get US releases when they were gathered up in those boxes, but tracking them all down was difficult, at least to use. I wasn't buying them, trying to buy them through the store, but as I would come across them. And so on this one here, we get Feelings, Take 10, some BBC sessions, some live on here, 5 total tracks added to this. And eventually we got a 40th anniversary of that specific album. And so this has all kinds of cool stuff on the inside of it, and different, alternate mixes and live stuff, and just very cool. This was a fantastic box, not only for the music, but the merch and the stuff that was coming with this. Just some really great stuff that was in here. Just real quickly, but it came with backstage pass type things, press releases that look like newspaper. We get an analog cut of the album on vinyl. I forgot the vinyl was in here. We get a 2011 master by Bob Ludwig. We get the raw sessions, bonus tracks, and a DVD in here as well. So as I said, lots and lots of good stuff. Queen doing it up right with that. And so we move on to Jazz, 1978 recording. I've got the paper sleeve edition because this comes with the, first of all, it replicates the LP, but it comes with that iconic poster that came in the original one, the bicycle race for the Fat Bottom Girls thing. So reproduced in here, and I do have an original vinyl edition that has the poster with it as well. But since we're talking about CDs, I wanted to show you the CD Jazz edition. So I don't yet have Jazz in the 2 CD version that came out that would have all the bonus tracks. Some point I'll find that. When I find that, it will get added to the collection, but right now there's that. And we move back to the 2 CD editions with Game in 1980, my favorite of all the Queen albums. This is one that I grew up with. I still got that original vinyl copy from my older brothers, but before I even knew who Queen was or anything like that, I remember listening to this album with my brother. So it's got very, special memories for me on it. And then the EP's got 5 extra tracks. Save Me, a live version, a Human Body B-side. I really would love Queen to gather up all the B-sides from these things and put out an odds and sods type B-sides collection. No live tracks, just the studio outtakes. We get Sail Away Sweet Sister Take 1, It's a Beautiful Day original, spontaneous idea. Of course, It's a Beautiful Day would later turn up on Made in Heaven. Dragon Attack live. So very cool to get that. Now, the Flash Gordon soundtrack is the one album I do not have by Queen, but then again, I'm looking for that 2 CD edition of it, and as I said, these can be difficult to get. And I've always kind of considered it a soundtrack more than anything. It's a little bit of an oddity. It's not really an album that I'm able to listen to, so it's never been high on my list to get. That said, I've never had it in the collection, so it is the one Queen album that I need to get, and at some point it will be added in. But we move on and we start getting into compilations. Queen Greatest Hits, their original compilation, came out in 1981. This one here is a remastered and expanded edition with 3 bonus tracks on it. But they started doing that, giving fans, something to go out and get. They returned, though, with a real different sound for Hot Space, basically mixing in dance beats, disco, that kind of stuff that was very popular at the time. We get Under Pressure, which, of course, huge hit, but everything else on this album is a little bit offbeat from what we would normally have expected from Queen. Good news is, though, the band returned to form with their next album, The Works, in 1984, getting songs like Radio Gaga, which would, of course, lead to Lady Gaga's name, but lots and lots of great material. And so I'm back to the bonus EP versions of these, 6 tracks on here, Go Crazy, a B-side. Then we get some single remixes like I Want to Break Free, Hammer to Fall. We've got Is This the World We Created live, It's Hard Life live, and then Thank God It's Christmas, a non-single or non-album single added onto that. All right, It's a Kind of Magic, 1986 with bonus EP. Also the last time the band would tour with Freddie Mercury. So we've got A Kind of Magic, the Highlander version, One Vision single version, Pain is So Close to Pleasure single remix, Forever piano version, A Kind of Vision demo, One Vision live at Wembley Stadium, and Friends Will Be Friends Will Be Friends finishes it off at the end. All right, and this one here also has gotten the box set, or not yet. Sorry, not yet, it didn't. It's the next album that got the box set treatment. Okay, so before that, though, we get a live album, Live Magic, 1986, original release of this recording here, single disc edition of this. I want to say this has since been expanded to a 2 CD edition, but I love my single disc edition, so I stick with that. Now, we move on to The Miracle in 86. I think I said this was 86, so probably not 86. I don't have all the dates right in my head. Miracle is 86, though. So this is the regular edition with the bonus EP, 2011 remaster. I Want It All single version, Invisible Man early version with guide vocal, Hang On In There, a B-side, Hijack My Heart, a B-side, and Stealin', a B-side. So 3 B-sides on this one. Chinese Torture instrumental, and the Invisible Man 12-inch version. And then, as I mentioned, there was a box set version of this, just simply called Collector's Edition, having all kinds of cool things in this as well. So we get, an LP edition of this with the long-lost original LP cut version, which is different than what the final CD running order and everything was. Then we get the Miracle Sessions, which I actually like even better than the album in the end of the day. We get alternate Miracle with different versions of the songs. And then we get Miracumentus, instrumentals and backing tracks. and we get the radio interviews. Not really something that I need to listen to this far on from after the album has come out, but we also get a Blu-ray DVD of videos. So lots and lots of cool stuff included in this box set. What right around this time got started, and more bands seem to be doing these days, which is cool, they're putting out 2 CD deluxe editions from those box sets with a bonus disc that has a selections of from the box sets. So for me, 1, being a completist, and 2, somebody who likes compilations, I like having all 5 of those discs in there, but I can actually pop on a selections of from the box set to just enjoy without listening to one entire disc of the whole thing. Plus I like the alternate packaging. I don't always pull that box set out, but I have this to very easily pull out. It's got the new remaster. So I will pick those up, not just as a completist, but actually because I like the way that they are. I like that idea. Sometimes I find out that the second disc in there is nothing more than the first disc, bonus disc in a box set, and of course at that point I skip those. If they're not really true selections of covering all the bonus content, I don't usually pick them up. Okay, moving on to what would be the last studio album while Freddie Mercury was alive, Innuendo from 1991. It was the first Queen album that I bought, and arguably my favorite of all the other albums. I loved this one when I got it, of course. Later on when I would get the game and then have the great nostalgic memories and vibes from it, has long since become my favorite. But if I had to pick another album outside of the game, I would go with this. I bought this at the time because I loved the singles that were coming off of it. I actually, coincidentally enough, bought it the day before Freddie Mercury was passed, or the day at least that he was announced to have passed. I bought it, I was listening to it the day before, went to sleep with it on, woke up in the morning, turned on the radio to hear that Freddie Mercury had passed away, and I was gutted because I was so into the album and so loving it, to then find out that essentially there would be no more Queen because Freddie Mercury had passed. Of course, that obviously turned out to not be the case in the end of the day, but as a kid, I just remember that was a hard-hitting loss. Again, bonus EP edition. So we get I Can't Live With You, the Rocks retake version of it, which is a compilation I'll show later on. Lost Opportunity, a B-side. Ride the Wild Wind, an early version. I'm Going Slightly Mad, the Mad Mix, and Headlong with a guide vocal version. All right. Now, with Freddie Mercury's passing, they began capitalizing on it with compilation releases and things. And Greatest Hits 2 came out, I think, like in other territories. But here in the US, we got Classic Queen. And I don't really remember why they did that, except I think there was another release, or there was something they were trying not to compete with, and so they put out something called Classic Queen, but essentially is Greatest Hits 2 for everybody else. So this came out, and I remember picking this up. I get, it was probably within a few days before or days after the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, just wanting to have a compilation of those hit songs, and so I picked this up. And then from the tribute concert, some releases came out like this, George Michael and Queen, and they had recorded, George Michael had fronted Queen for the concert, and so there's 6 tracks that are on here covering those live recordings. Somebody to Love was released as a single and a video, but you also got Killer, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, These Are the Days of Our Lives with Lisa Stansfield, Calling You, and Dear Friends on here as well. And for a while, people thought perhaps George Michael would front Queen, but that never came to pass, unfortunately. And then in 1995, we got the final album that Queen was working on with Freddie Mercury when he passed away, Made in Heaven. And so made up of tracks that were comprised of outtakes and even songs from Freddie Mercury's solo album that were turned into Queen songs. But Freddie Mercury really wanted to complete this album before his passing and did everything in his power to record everything he could. And the band just got all of the takes and versions that they could get. Unfortunately, he passed, and then the band worked on that material to complete it and turned it into this album. This one here, also the 2011 remaster with bonus EP. So we get a single version for Heaven for Everyone, It's a Beautiful Day B-side version, which is probably that original one that was also on, I think it was The Game, if I remember correctly. My Life Has Been Saved, 1989 B-side version, I Was Made for Loving You vocal and piano version, Rockin' Rio Blues, a live B-side, and A Winter Tale. This one here, a different mix version of it. All right, and then as I mentioned, 1997, there was a compilation called Queen Rocks, and I picked this up because it had No One But You, and this one here was a brand new song of which it said vocals performed by, and then it kind of said, but that's another story. It didn't announce who the vocalist was. I believe that the vocals were sung by Brian May. I don't think it was Roger Taylor. I could be wrong. Roger Taylor would record vocals while Freddie Mercury was alive. So there's Queen songs sung by Roger Taylor, and there's Queen songs sung by Brian May. So it wasn't unheard of for those guys to take the lead vocal, and they very easily could have just closed ranks and been a trio. But as we know, they ultimately would get different people to fill in and take over the frontman position. But Queen Rocks was very cool to get that brand new song. And we got some different things on here. I Can't Live With You. This one here was the 1997 Rocks retake version. And we got some other edited version, but basically a compilation of the rock songs as opposed to the variety of Queen material that they put out. And then we got the Queen Greatest Hits 3, and it's referred to as Queen Plus because everything that's on here is Queen Plus Elton John. We've got Queen Plus totally spacing here. George Michael. We've got Queen Plus a whole bunch of different people. After the Freddie Mercury tribute concert, they released a number of those songs done live where they had somebody fronting Queen for that tribute show, as well as having other guests that they recorded singles with. So this was a very cool compilation, kind of unnecessary in the end of the day, but everything was big business for Queen, so I understand why it ultimately came out. And I'm glad to have it in the collection, but nothing off of here was actually a big hit of any kind, worthy of making it an actual greatest hits. But when you already had volumes 1 and 2, you could make volume 3. And interesting, that one came out here in the States as volume 3, but I do think that the volumes 1 and 2 had since been reissued here in the States, and Classic Queen and the other compilations had since gone out of print. So it's all falling back in line, but a bit confusing for those of us that grew up with those alternative compilations instead of the greatest hits. And then we finally had a real frontman in Paul Rodgers fronting Queen, Return of the Champions. They went out and did a live tour. This is a 2 CD live set from it. Kind of an interesting package. You don't see much of these days where it's actually just a piece of tape on here, but it allows this to hinge as opposed to it being glued over this side the way that this one is. So there we got that as a live album, and really a lot of hype behind that. They would record this one studio album called The Cosmos Rocks, and it just didn't continue the same hype and everything. In my opinion, it sounded like a Paul Rodgers solo album with Queen backing him up, as opposed to a Queen album that has Paul Rodgers singing. It just really didn't have any of the pizzazz, flavor, theatrics, any of the stuff that makes Queen Queen. Very, very little of the sound of Brian May's guitar playing, except on a couple tracks on here. In fact, to me, the most Queen sounding songs are the ones that Roger Taylor sings on here than Paul Rodgers. This one came with Super Live in Japan DVD highlights disc. I think this was like a Best Buy exclusive version of it. And then the band did something really cool, and these were imports, but get tired of the same old compilations coming out with the same old tracks, the greatest hits, so to speak, that the band compiled, and this was at the time of the remaster series, so it's 2011, all those remasters with bonus EPs that I got, they started putting out deep cuts. And deep cuts is just what it sounds like, but it is the deep cuts off the albums. It is not the hits. The occasional song that might have been like a fourth or fifth single from the album that has never been on a greatest hits will appear here, but ultimately it's deep cuts. So like this kicks off with Org Battle, Stone Cold Crazy, My Fairy King, I'm in Love with My Car, and Keep Yourself Alive is on here. But very cool collection, and they kept doing it. So a deep cuts 2 and a deep cuts 3, and it basically coincided with the way that they released it. So the grouping of albums that were the first release came out, and then this compilation, and then there was another 5 albums, because I think there's 15 albums that are Queen proper before we have the Paul Rodgers. So the first 5 albums and this comp came out, and then a number of months later, you got the next 5 albums plus this comp, and you got the last 5 albums plus this compilation here. And in particular, I got the last 5 albums in this box. This was how they came. I pulled them out to be able to run through them with you. So this compilation and box, and you can see the Queen yellow logo and why the Queen is tied to being yellow there with that. So those were a lot of fun, and I wish more bands would do compilations like that. Next up, Queen did Forever, where they did 3 unreleased songs, and I believe 2 of these are ones with Michael Jackson on them. I don't think all of them were. Let Me In Your Heart, Love Kills, and There Must Be More to Life Than This. I believe the first and last song on here are the Michael Jackson, but I could be wrong. Maybe all 3 are. And then you get some different things on here. You get some songs that have some different mixes and stuff. And this was the 2 CD edition of it, but there was a single disc edition. And you know me and my single disc compilations, that after I found out there was a single disc edition, I later went and got this. And I pull this one out now to listen to things. But, I got to have them both in the collection. No sense in getting rid of it after I'd already bought it. And the band did some cool archival releases. They're always working on stuff like this, but Live at the Rainbow 74, this came out in 2014, so giving us a 40th anniversary of the show, 2 CD set of this coming out. They also did a Night at the Opera or Night at the Odeon, and this being a single disc collection coming out 1975. So this one here coming out in 2015, a 40th anniversary of that. The band also did a box set called Live on Air, and it's a bunch of BBC recordings. This is different than the Live on Air that are radio broadcasts that are sometimes poor quality. This is a real official thing on Hollywood Records by the band with BBC, so very, very good quality recordings. So Live on Air. This is a 2 CD set. It's been very hard to find. I never ended up getting the whole box set, just decided to buy the 2 CD edition of it. But that, at the time, I remember, I think that again might have been a UK release or something, because it was a little hard to track down. Then the band does its biopic, simply titled Bohemian Rhapsody. This has that opens up with 20th Century Fox Fanfare, but it's the Brian May version of it. And we do get Somebody to Love, but then Doing All Right Revisited. So they, I don't know, it's not so much re-recorded, but they did embellish and finish off that track to have included here, first official Smile recording released. So I really loved getting this. Then we get a live version, Live at the Rainbow, Keep Yourself Alive, and Fat Bottom Girls Live in Paris, and some Live Aid recordings and stuff, and some Rock in Rio and movie mix versions. So not just a greatest hits, a true soundtrack, but also some rarities on here, making it cool for fans to get as well. And it took forever. It took over a decade of him fronting the band, but finally, Queen plus Adam Lambert getting a double live album. And I gotta say, the bombast and over-the-top performance of this is in true Queen fashion. It absolutely does the legacy right. I would love to see a full-length new album of original material, for which they have said they are certainly considering doing. They've decided to try writing and see what happens. That was about a year ago that all that information came out. I hope that the radio silence is the fact that they're working on it and something is in fact happening. And maybe in 2026, we're going to get something, who knows. I hope that it hasn't just died off, but this live recording here is really, really good. Heir to the throne for sure. Adam Lambert has done an amazing job fronting the band. I've seen him live twice with him. I think he does a very, very good job. All right, and in 2024, a new Japanese compilation came out, Kizuna, and this was, I believe, voted on and picked for by the fans, and it's pretty much everything you would expect. It really doesn't have anything out of the ordinary on here. It was just something that was new and different, and a lot of times around Christmas, meaning the month of December, early January, new releases plummet and fall off, and Roger Taylor was releasing a live album that I got, and this was coming out right around the same time, and I decided to just get them both together and have a cool Queen listening experience. So that ends my 40 CD Queen collection run through. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I'd be curious to know, what is your favorite album or rarity item in your collection for Queen that you have, of all this cool killer stuff that I've got. I don't know, but I really do love that reproduction of the Jazz album in paper sleeve with the Fat Bottom Girls bicycle ride poster that came with it. Just, I love reproduction stuff, and the fact that it's reproduction with music is always even better for me. So there you go. Hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll be talking to you real soon. Keep an eye out for more of these CD collection run-through videos. Bye, everyone.